Okay. Oh, changes being saved. Okay. Welcome to today's talk. Oh, let me go into the Discord. Is anyone there? Yes. Okay. Welcome to today's talk. We're going to be talking about DEXs. What's a DEX? It's a decentralized exchange. So we're going to go over just some basic stuff related to what that means, some benefits, some potential drawbacks, some examples, and then just a brief kind of philosophical overview relating to cryptocurrency and decentralized exchanges. And like anything these days, there are going to be varying perspectives on the spectrum of whether a decentralized exchange is good, beneficial, useful, all of those things. We're not going to cover all of those, but recognize there are a variety of opinions out there, but we're going to be more focused on the practical utilitarian usage of DEXs. Okay. I think it's important, if we're going to start with DEXs, let's talk about three tenets that make cryptocurrency interesting to me. One of those is there's this immutability of a blockchain ledger, which means that we can potentially reduce middlemen. We can see exactly what's going on. It's upheld by the network. Two, which we'll get into at another point, there's consciousness and how that seems to affect price. So the value that a cryptocurrency is worth seems to be dictated by the value that people are willing to pay for it. And that has a positive correlation typically with how many people are paying attention to it. So that's very interesting. We're not going to really talk about those two things. The third which is decentralization. And you don't need decentralization for blockchain. It is typically viewed as something that's baked in because of Bitcoin and a lot of other ones, but it's not something, Ethereum de-emphasizes it to some extent, but it's still what I would consider a core tenet of cryptocurrency for most of them. So that's where decentralized exchanges fit in. So the best way to kind of think about this is a decentralized exchange is a peer-to-peer way to exchange cryptocurrencies or anything theoretically. You're using smart contracts or some mechanism to validate that you are sending something somewhere and you're receiving something somewhere. And there's a way to do that, and there's platforms that and protocols that help underwrite kind of what's going on in terms of how the DEX can function. So what's some benefit of a DEX? Well, first of all, you're always going to be in control of your coins and tokens. So one of the things a lot of people don't think about, you sign up for Binance or KuCoin or whatever it is, Bitrex, whatever, and you don't actually really own the keys to your coins and tokens. The exchange does. So, that's not really a problem. They could be insured. It could be totally safe. But the truth is, you don't really have it. It's not totally dissimilar like when you put your money in a bank. It might be a little less secure than that, but if you put your money in the bank, your money's there. You can see it virtually and digitally, but if one day it just said 000, you would have to go back and validate that you put it in. But if they just said, no, you don't actually own it. So that's important. It's not a reason not to use centralized exchanges. Be aware of how centralized exchanges make money. They make money in fees. DEXs can also have fees. People can charge fees for using a platform. So they're not necessarily mutually exclusive, but that is something that you need to be aware of how a centralized exchange would be working. So that's one. That's a benefit, is that you actually own your keys. You own what you're buying and selling. It's going there. It's being enabled by a smart contract. It's being enabled by a protocol that's underwriting exactly what's going on. You're the one who's doing it. And we may see some hybrid things, we'll get to that a little bit later, of some of how these things could interlock. So yeah, that is certainly one of the benefits. Now, what's a drawback and DEX is just think of it like a peer-to-peer exchange. Any peer-to-peer thing, whether it was Napster or torrents, they have massive utilitarian, they're useful at this point. If we can get rid of something in the middle, kind of dictating what's going on and trade between each other, that's more like a bazaar. Back in the day, bazaar, not bizarre. That's good, in my opinion. So what's a drawback of DEX? It's usually a little more complicated. It's not going to be as straightforward as just getting an address that's generated to you by a centralized exchange or a wallet. Like you're going to may have a few additional steps. You're going to need to be far more responsible with how you set your account up, any backup mechanisms, 2FA, all of these things. And, they're probably going to be significantly lower volume than not as many or things and much money flowing around in these, exchanges that are decentralized. So that's either a drawback or a good thing, depending. I mean, the volume is touted as, the end all and be all of liquidity because, if there's a lot of volume, you can sell or buy and, confidently assume that you're going to be able to do that. But sometimes, things before they're really popular and they look pretty good might have low volume. So there's some examples of, and I think you could also put that as a benefit. A lot of these things are a lot of DEXs are just a little bit more difficult to use than a centralized exchange. And you may think you're ahead of the game because you're on Binance or whatever, trading things back and forth and GDAX, whatever it is. There's always deeper levels to this game. It's a lot like Westworld. There's always levels to this thing, man. There's layers to it. So the riddle and the Sphinx will continue if you wanted to. So I think it's worthwhile to check out some DEXs. Let's talk about some examples and how they work. So one that I use often, there's two that I use probably more than any other, are IDEX, and CryptoBridge. So IDX, you need an address and an interface, either something like MetaMask or a hardware wallet to actually use and transfer back and forth. IDX is great. There's a lot of cool coins there. You need to do your own research and see which ones those might be and why you might want to get them. You also want to make sure that the price you're buying those things at are fair market value, because with lower volume, there could be a much higher or lower price somewhere. So either an arbitrage opportunity or just, you want to stay away because it's not a good price. So that's one that I really recommend. And this kind of ties in that I do think everyone should have a hardware wallet. If you're really doing this, if you're really investing, get familiar with the hardware wallet. IDX is a great way to do that. On the same token, no pun intended, Fork Delta, formerly Ether Delta. You need to be aware of phishing that happened there. They redirected, got, hacked their site. So if you were using it, you got redirected to a site. So you always want to be aware of that stuff. Again, the responsibility and security is significantly, more incumbent on you to do than anything else in a centralized exchange, because it's you. It's just you. There's no layer of protection theoretically between you losing or making a mistake or getting in trouble. So that's one of the other things that we could put in a potential drawback. So CryptoBridge is a little bit easier. You don't need a hardware wallet to use it. You can, but basically there's a very unique mechanism they have with BCO, which is a trade. We're not going to get into it. We'll do a whole CryptoBridge explainer, but they are another decentralized exchanges that you connect to via a node, and the price is updated and it's completely decentralized, and it's pretty cool. And they also, again, have some smaller, less prominent coins that you could take a look at. I bought a lot of Raving coin, going to be mining it too, over the counter, but the first big exchange to list Raving coin was CryptoBridge. So they're pretty cool. And, in terms of storing these things, you can leave it on somewhere like CryptoBridge. IDX is nice because it's on your address. It's at your address. So it's actually there. You own it. But if you use a generated address on CryptoBridge, you can move the coins to a wallet, either the coin itself's wallet or somewhere else that would take it. So if it's an ERC20 token to any address, Ethereum address. So yeah, that's it. Okay, those are the exchanges. And then I want to talk about briefly, not go into the whole thing, but 0x. 0x is a protocol for integrating decentralized exchange, principles, basically bringing decentralization to bigger exchanges or allowing anyone to run a decentralized exchange. There's a lot of rumors of them potentially being used by Coinbase, because a lot of former executives from Coinbase are at 0x. There's a lot of talk about them potentially being, purchased or acquired or used by Coinbase to run a decentralized exchange, a DEX. So that's something that I wanted to bring bring to the forefront as well. I am not invested in 0x, so it's certainly not financial advice to buy it, but I know people who really like it, and it certainly had a nice run up sitting here in the middle of May of 2018. So that's it. I mean, again, the main pillar of cryptocurrency we're focusing on, it's in the word, is decentralization. This is a peer-to-peer mechanism of trading cryptocurrencies back and forth to people. And it's effective and it works. And I think it's, at least, even if you don't believe in it as like, from principle, or you don't think it's effective or it's detrimental, get familiar with the process. See how it's different than something that's centralized. Certainly there's decentralized things that are still good, like SoulSeek for music, that are still around to this day because it's a very strong principle. It's something that originally got me very interested in Bitcoin back in the day. So yeah, that's about it for today. And there'll be another talk later this week or next week, which is Portfolio Management 101. Until then, I'll see you soon.